Imagine you wake up on a Friday morning in January 2026. You're scrolling through your phone, coffee in hand. The headline hits you like a truck. USA added only 50,000 jobs in December. You blink, you read it again, 50,000, that's it. Economists were expecting around 155,000. We missed by over 100,000 jobs. This isn't just a bad month. This is a neon red flashing warning sign that the engine of the American economy is dying. And if you think this is just another boring jobs report that doesn't affect you, you're dead wrong. Because what dropped on January 9th, 2026 is the beginning of something much darker. This is how the most powerful economy on earth quietly slides into a recession while the media smiles and tells you everything is fine. This is the recession signal. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what it means for your paycheck, your savings, and your future. And let's rewind for a second. December 2025, holiday season, Black Friday madness. Everyone's spending money they don't have on gifts they can't afford. The vibe is chaotic but hopeful. Businesses are hiring seasonal workers. Restaurants are packed. Unemployment is sitting at 4.1%. Not amazing, but stable. Then January 9th, 2026 rolls around. The Bureau of Labor Statistics drops the December jobs report, and the number is brutal. 50,000 new jobs. To put that in perspective, the U.S. economy needs to add roughly 100,000 to 150,000 jobs per month just to keep up with population growth. We added half of that, actually less than half. This means we're not growing, we're shrinking in real terms. But here's where it gets worse. The unemployment rate jumped from 4.1% to 4.6% in one single month. That's a massive spike. When unemployment rises that fast, it doesn't just stop, it accelerates. It's like a snowball rolling downhill, starts small, picks up speed, then boom, avalanche. Now you might be thinking, okay, one bad month, big deal. Maybe it's just a fluke. Maybe January will bounce back. But here's the thing. This isn't happening in a vacuum. Let's look at what else is going on. Inflation is still sticky. The Federal Reserve has been hiking interest rates for years, trying to cool down the economy. And guess what? It worked. They cooled it down all right. They cooled it down so much that businesses stopped hiring. Companies are looking at their balance sheets thinking, do we really need another employee when interest rates are this high and borrowing costs so much? Nope. They're freezing hiring, they're cutting overtime, and in some cases, they're starting to lay people off quietly. This is called a soft landing that turned into a crash landing. Here's the dirty little secret nobody in Washington wants to admit. The jobs market is the last thing to break in an economic cycle. Think about it. When a company starts struggling, what's the first thing they cut? Marketing budget, travel expenses, office snacks, the fancy coffee machine. But firing people, that's the nuclear option. That's the last resort. Because once you start laying off workers, it becomes a public relations nightmare. Stock price tanks, morale collapses. So companies hold on as long as they can, but eventually, when revenue keeps dropping month after month, they have no choice, they pull the trigger. And that's what we're seeing right now. The fact that job growth collapsed to 50,000 means companies have already exhausted every other option. They've cut everything else. Now they're cutting people. And once that starts, it doesn't stop. It spreads like wildfire. One company lays off workers. Those workers stop spending money at restaurants, car dealerships, retail stores. Those businesses see revenue drop, so they lay off their workers, and the cycle feeds itself. This is how recessions happen, not with a bang, but with a slow, suffocating squeeze. Let's talk about what this means for you. If you're employed right now, congratulations, but don't get comfortable. The companies that are hiring right now are few and far between. If you lose your job in this environment, finding a new one is going to take months, not weeks. The competition is brutal. For every job posting, there are now hundreds of applicants. And here's the kicker. Wage growth is slowing down. Even if you keep your job, your raises are going to be smaller. Your boss is going to look you in the eye during your annual review and say, sorry, budget's tight this year. Best I can do is 2%. Meanwhile, inflation is still running at 3 to 4%. So in real terms, you're getting poorer. Your paycheck stays the same, but everything costs more. Gas, groceries, rent, insurance. You're on a treadmill that's speeding up, and you're running just to stay in place. But wait, there's more. Let's talk about the sectors that got destroyed in December. Construction, manufacturing, and retail. These are the backbone industries of the American middle class. And these are the jobs that don't require a college degree but still pay decent money, and they're vanishing. Construction jobs dropped because nobody's building new houses. Why? Because interest rates on mortgages are still near 7%. Nobody can afford to buy a house at that rate. So builders stopped building. No building means no construction jobs. Manufacturing is getting crushed because global demand is collapsing. China's economy is in trouble. Europe is in a recession. Nobody's buying American-made goods, so factories are running at half capacity and cutting shifts. Retail is dying because Americans are tapped out. Credit card debt is at an all-time high. Savings rates are at an all-time low. People are broke. They're not shopping. They're surviving. And when people stop spending, retail workers lose their jobs. Now here's the part that should terrify you. The government's official unemployment rate of 4.6% is a lie. Well, not a lie exactly, but it's misleading as hell. That number only counts people who are actively looking for work. If you've been unemployed for so long that you gave up looking, you're not counted. You're invisible. The real unemployment rate, the one that includes discouraged workers and people working part-time because they can't find full-time work, is closer to 8 or 9%. That's nearly double the official number. So when the news tells you unemployment is 4.6%, what they're really saying is, if you ignore all the people who are suffering, everything looks fine. It's like saying the Titanic is unsinkable as long as you don't count the water in the hull. So what's really happening here? Let me break it down in a way the politicians don't want you to understand. When the Federal Reserve raises interest rates, they're essentially making it more expensive to borrow money. This affects everything: mortgages, car loans, business loans, credit cards, everything. The idea is that if money is expensive to borrow, people will borrow less, spend less, and inflation will cool down. But here's the problem they never talk about on CNBC. When you make borrowing expensive, you don't just slow down bad spending, you kill good spending too. You kill the small business owner who wanted to expand and hire 3 new employees. You kill the young couple who wanted to buy their first home and start a family. You kill the factory that needed a loan to upgrade their equipment and stay competitive. The Fed doesn't use a scalpel, they use a sledgehammer. And right now, that sledgehammer just crushed the jobs market. Let's look at some real numbers that should make your blood run cold. In December 2025, the average interest rate on a 30-year mortgage was hovering around 6.8 to 7.2%, depending on your credit score. Compare that to 2020 and 2021, when rates were at 2.5 to 3%. It's nearly triple. Let me put this in terms you can feel in your wallet. If you buy a $400,000 house at 3% interest, your monthly payment is around $1,186. That same house at 7% interest, your payment jumps to $2,661. That's nearly $1,000 more per month, $12,000 more per year, just in interest. So the American dream of owning a home just became $12,000 a year more expensive overnight. And people wonder why nobody's buying houses, why construction jobs are disappearing. It's math, cold, brutal math. But it gets worse because it's not just mortgages. Car loans are now sitting at 7 to 9% for new cars. Credit card interest rates have exploded to 22 to 28% on average. If you're carrying a balance on your credit card right now, you're being charged loan shark rates legally. The average American household is now paying over $200 per year just in credit card interest alone. That's money that used to go to restaurants, movies, new clothes, vacations. Now it's going straight into the pockets of JP Morgan Chase and Bank of America. This is the hidden tax that nobody talks about, the interest rate tax, and it's destroying the middle class quietly. Now let's talk about something the media loves to ignore, the real cost of living crisis. The official inflation rate, according to the government, is sitting around 3.4% as of late 2025. But if you actually live in America and you buy food and pay rent, you know that number is complete garbage. Let me give you some real-world examples. Eggs. In 2020, a dozen eggs cost you about $1.50. Today, depending on where you live, you're paying $4 to $6. That's a 300% increase, not 3%, 300%. Ground beef used to be $3.50 a pound. Now it's $6 to $8 a pound in most grocery stores. Rent, the average rent for a 1-bedroom apartment in a mid-sized American city in 2020 was around $100. Today, it's closer to $1,600 to $1,800. That's a 50% increase in 5 years. But the government says inflation is only 3.4%. How does that math work? It doesn't. The official inflation number is rigged. It's designed to make things look better than they are, so the government doesn't have to raise Social Security payments or adjust tax brackets as much. They use something called hedonic adjustments and substitution, fancy words that basically mean if steak gets too expensive, they assume you'll just eat chicken instead, so it doesn't count as inflation. It's like saying your rent didn't go up, you just moved to a worse neighborhood, so everything's fine. This is financial gaslighting on a national scale. And this brings us to the elephant in the room: what happens next? Because if you think 50,000 jobs in December was bad, wait until you see January, February, and March of 2026. Here's what most people don't understand about recessions. They don't happen all at once. They creep up on you like a slow-moving disaster. First, the jobs market weakens. That's where we are now. Then consumer spending drops because people are scared to spend money when they might lose their job. Then businesses see revenue fall, so they cut even more jobs. Then the stock market starts to panic and sells off. Then the banks start tightening credit because they're worried about defaults. And then the whole thing spirals into a full-blown recession. We are currently at step 1 maybe step 2, but the dominoes are lined up and they're starting to fall. Now, some of you are probably thinking, okay, this sounds bad, but the government will just step in and fix it, right? They'll cut interest rates, they'll send stimulus checks, they'll do something. And you're right, they will try. But here's the problem. The government's toolbox is almost empty. Let me explain. During the 2008 financial crisis, the Federal Reserve cut interest rates from 5% all the way down to near zero. They had room to cut. During the COVID crash in 2020, they did the same thing. Rates went to zero and they printed trillions of dollars. But right now, interest rates are sitting at 5.25 to 5.5%. If they cut rates to fight a recession, inflation will come roaring back. If they don't cut rates, the recession gets worse. They're stuck. It's called a policy trap. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. And as for stimulus checks, good luck with that. The national debt is now over $36 trillion. We're paying over $1 trillion per year just in interest on that debt. Congress is in gridlock. Half of them want to cut spending. The other half want to spend more. Nothing's getting done. So when this recession really kicks in, don't expect the government to ride in on a white horse and save the day. They're broke, they're divided, and they're out of options. Before we go further, let me ask you something. If you're finding this breakdown valuable, hit that like button. It tells YouTube that people actually care about the truth, and it helps this video reach more people who need to see it. And if you want to stay ahead of the economic collapse, subscribe to Empire Cycle, because we're the only ones telling you what's really happening without the sugarcoating. All right, back to the nightmare. Let's talk about what this means for your retirement, because if you're over 40, you need to hear this. Most Americans have their retirement savings in a 401k or an IRA, and most of that money is invested in the stock market. When the economy goes into recession, the stock market typically drops 20 to 40%, sometimes more. If you're planning to retire in the next 5 years and the market crashes, you're screwed. You can't wait 10 years for it to recover. You need that money now. And here's the really dark part. The people who run the country, the politicians, the central bankers, the Wall Street elites, they know this is coming. They're not stupid. They see the same data we're looking at right now, but they can't admit it publicly because if they do, the panic starts immediately. So instead, they go on TV and say everything is fine, the economy is strong, we're headed for a soft landing. It's a lie, but it's a necessary lie to keep the system from collapsing faster. This is the game. Keep people calm, keep them spending, keep them working, until the music stops. And when the music stops, when the recession officially hits and the headlines finally admit what we already know, it'll be too late for most people to protect themselves. The smart money, the people who are paying attention right now, they're already moving their assets. They're buying gold, they're buying silver, they're getting out of overvalued stocks, they're preparing. The question is, are you? Now let's talk about the sectors that are about to get absolutely destroyed in 2026, because it's not just construction and retail, it's everything. Let's start with commercial real estate. This is the ticking time bomb that nobody's talking about. During COVID, everyone started working from home, and guess what? A lot of people never went back to the office. Major cities like San Francisco, New York, Chicago, they have office buildings that are 30 to 50% empty right now. These buildings are owned by huge investment firms and banks who borrowed billions of dollars to buy them. The loans on these buildings are coming due in 2026 and 2027, and the buildings are worth half of what they were in 2019. So the banks have a choice. They can either refinance the loans at much higher interest rates, which the building owners can't afford, or they can foreclose and take massive losses. Either way, this is going to blow up, and when it does, it's going to make the 2008 housing crisis look like a practice run. We're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars in bad debt sitting on bank balance sheets right now. And here's the scary part. Your money is in those banks. Now, I'm not saying there's going to be a bank run, but I am saying you should be very aware of where your money is and how safe it actually is. The FDIC insures deposits up to $250,000 per account. But if multiple big banks fail at the same time, the FDIC doesn't have enough money to cover everyone. In 2023, we saw Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank collapse in a matter of days. The government stepped in and bailed out the depositors, but that was 2 banks. What happens when it's 10 banks or 20? Do you really trust the government to save everyone? I don't. Let's move on to the auto industry, because this is another disaster waiting to happen. Car prices exploded during COVID. The average new car in America now costs over $48,000. Used cars are averaging $27,000. People can't afford to buy cars at these prices, especially not with 8 to 9% interest rates on auto loans. So what did people do? They took out longer loans, 72-month loans, 84-month loans. Some people are signing 96-month loans. That's 8 years to pay off a car. And here's the problem. Cars depreciate. They lose value every single year. But your loan balance stays high for years because you're barely paying down the principal. So millions of Americans are now upside down on their car loans, meaning they owe more than the car's worth. If they lose their job and can't make the payments, they can't even sell the car to get out of the loan because the sale price won't cover what they owe. This is called negative equity, and it's a trap. And in 2026, as jobs disappear, we're going to see record auto loan defaults. The repo man is about to have the busiest year of his life. Let's talk about student loans because this is the other anchor dragging down the economy. There are $1.7 trillion in student loan debt in America right now. And after a 3-year pause during COVID, payments restarted in 2023. Millions of people who got used to not paying suddenly have to start paying again, and guess what? They don't have the money. Student loan default rates are quietly climbing, and when people default on federal loans, the government doesn't get that money back. Taxpayers eat the loss. But more importantly, every dollar that goes to a student loan payment is a dollar that doesn't go into the economy. That's less money spent at restaurants, less money spent on clothes, less money spent on anything that keeps businesses running and people employed. The student loan crisis is strangling an entire generation's ability to participate in the economy, and it's only getting worse. Now let's zoom out and look at the big picture, because this isn't just about jobs or interest rates or debt. This is about the end of an era. For the last 40 years, the American economy has been built on one simple idea: borrow money, spend it, and the economy will grow forever. The government borrows and spends, corporations borrow and spend, consumers borrow and spend, and as long as everyone keeps borrowing and spending, the party continues. But here's the problem with debt. Eventually you have to pay it back. And when interest rates go up, the cost of servicing that debt becomes unbearable. The U.S. government is now spending more on interest payments than it spends on the entire defense budget. Think about that. We're spending more money on interest than we are on the military, and that number is only going up. Corporations are drowning in debt. Zombie companies that only survive because they can keep refinancing their loans at low rates are now facing a reckoning. And consumers, the average American household has over $17,000 in credit card debt, $32,000 in car loans, and $220,000 in mortgage debt. We are a nation living on borrowed time and borrowed money, and the bill is coming due. This is what economists call the everything bubble. Stocks are overvalued, housing is overvalued, bonds are overvalued. Everything is inflated because of decades of cheap money and easy credit. And now the cheap money is gone, interest rates are high, credit is tightening, and the bubble is starting to deflate. When bubbles pop, they don't do it slowly, they do it violently. And when this one pops, it's going to take a lot of people down with it. So what do? How do you protect yourself when the entire system is rigged against you? First, get out of debt. I know that's easier said than done, but every dollar you owe is a chain around your neck. Pay down your credit cards, pay down your car loans, get free. Second, build an emergency fund. You need at least 3 to 6 months of living expenses in cash sitting in a bank account that you don't touch. If you lose your job, you need time to find a new one without panicking and making stupid decisions. Third, diversify your assets. Don't have all your money in stocks. Don't have all your money in real estate. Spread it out. This is where gold and silver come in. Physical metals have been a store of value for thousands of years. When currencies collapse and stock markets crash, metals hold their value. I'm not saying sell everything and buy gold bars, but having 5 to 10% of your net worth in physical precious metals is smart insurance. Fourth, invest in yourself, learn new skills, make yourself more valuable in the job market. Because if the recession hits, the people who survive are the ones who are indispensable. And fifth, pay attention. Don't trust the mainstream media to tell you the truth. They're going to keep saying everything is fine until it's not. Follow the data, follow independent analysts, stay informed, because knowledge is the only real advantage you have. The 50,000 jobs report from January 9th, 2026 is not just a number, it's a warning. It's the canary in the coal mine, it's the first crack in the dam, it's the smoke before the fire. And if you're smart, you'll take this warning seriously and start preparing now, because the people who wait until the recession is officially declared, those people are already too late. The smart money doesn't wait for permission, the smart money moves early, the smart money is moving right now. So here's my challenge to you. Don't just watch this video and forget about it, take action today. Check your bank account, check your debt, check your emergency fund, and ask yourself, are you ready for what's coming? Because ready or not, it's coming. If this video opened your eyes, hit that subscribe button. We're going to keep tracking this economic collapse step by step, and you need to be here for it. Drop a comment below and tell me, do you think we're headed for a recession, or do you think the economy will bounce back? I want to hear your take. And if you know someone who needs to see this, share it, because the more people who are prepared, the better we all are. Thanks for watching Empire Cycle. This is the truth they don't want you to know. And we're just getting started. Stay sharp, stay informed, and I'll see you in the next one.